All right, guys, here we go for our notebook notes with estimating products of numbers that are greater to multiply. So today, just like we did in the first video with Mrs. Preston teaching you, we are not really solving the multiplication problems. Rather, we are solving to get an estimate. And an estimate means a number or an answer that is close to the real answer. And we do that so we can see if our real answer is reasonable, or maybe we made a mistake and we want to go back and revisit the question. So we are just estimating today, not really finding answers to the real multiplication problem. So make sure you have your math notebook, pencil of course, glue stick, scissors, your blue math folder, and go ahead and take out your class book page, your volume 1 colorful pages, because we might have time to do some practice problems in here first before you go off to your SAVVAS math tile and do your practice buddy and quick check. So let's gather all our materials so we're ready to go. All right, let's take out our notes page out of our blue folder first. And if you've been staying in order with me, it should be right on top, 3.2. This should become such a routine by now that it should be really quick and easy to get. Remember, you can stop this video at any time and pause it. This is when you can pause and go back to. All right, so let's go ahead and cut out our notes page for 3.2. There's a little chart at the bottom. You want to be careful you don't cut off the chart. Right along the bottom of the chart so that it fits in our notebook. You can cut off, as long as you don't cut off the numbers. Okay, just make sure you don't cut off the numbers. Okay, there were some key vocabulary words that you got in the first video that we're going to go ahead and review real quick together. So make sure you have your highlighter. Okay, once this is cut out, you can write 3.2 at the top. Okay, don't forget, pause this. I kind of move along, but if you're still cutting, pause it while you get this cut out and then restart. Not restart, you should just be able to hit play. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and make you dizzy a little bit so I can get closer. There we go. Okay, let's highlight our key vocabulary for 3.2. So we are in our chapter of multiplying larger numbers. Yesterday we practiced multiplying larger numbers, we call them greater numbers, by powers of 10. Today we're going to practice estimating products for larger numbers before we really actually get into multiplying big numbers. And there's some key vocabulary words that we definitely need in order to be successful today. One is called a compatible number, so let's highlight that. In compatible numbers, just like are on the chart that hopefully you printed or copied into your notebook, that's attached at the bottom of this lesson. Compatible numbers are easy to compute, which is a fancy word, mentally. See that word compute? That means work with. And mentally means in my mind. So today we're going to be finding, as we did practice together on our whiteboards, compatible numbers. The other two vocabulary words, well, one's in both of these words. Let's highlight it. It's called an estimate. So we should see that word estimate. And an estimate means we're going to find an answer that's close to the real answer before we really solve. And the vocab words were an underestimate and an overestimate. That means if we round numbers under their real value, that means we go down for a compatible number, we would get an underestimate. That means our final estimate would be lower than the real answer. If we kind of round our numbers up, that means we find compatible numbers that are higher than the actual number. We would get an overestimate at the end. Okay, so those are your key vocab words. So let's look up here. Let's start with number 1. When you use numbers less than the actual factors to estimate a product, the estimate will be less than the actual product. So let's highlight that. That is why it is called an underestimate. So let's do an example. To estimate 82 times 204, we would round, that's another keyword, let's highlight him, 82 to a compatible number of 80. And we would round 204 to a compatible number of 200. So if we had 82 times 204, and we were asked just to find an estimate of these two combined, which would be finding a product, we would round him to 80, which would be lower, and we'd round 204 to 200, which would be lower. So our estimate problem would now be 80 times 200. We just want to find what this real answer will be close to. And when we multiply numbers that end in zeros, we love that. We can think 8 times 2 is 16. Since they're both powers of 10, we can tack on 1, 2, 3 powers of 10 to get 16,000. Since the rounded numbers, since we took 82 and we went down to 80, and we took 204 and we went down to 200, that means the rounded numbers are less than the actual factors. So the estimate, this would be my estimate, of 16,000 is less than the actual product. And that means the real answer to the original problem. We're not really solving today. We're going to solve starting tomorrow. But I can estimate. If this is the problem I was given, I would say 82 is closer to 80, 204 is closer to 200. When I multiply my two compatible numbers, I get 16,000. Since I was less than on both the factors, that means the product, the real answer to this, is less than the real answer, or the actual product. But when we use numbers that are greater than the actual factors to estimate a product, that puts us at an estimate that is greater than the actual product. And that is called an overestimate. So let's practice that. It's saying estimate 685 times 28. Okay, an overestimate means these are going to go up. So 685 is between 600 and 700, but he's much closer because of this guy to 700. Same thing with 28. What's that compatible number? Or what should I round him to? He's between 20 and 30, but he's closer to 30. Well, 7 times 3 is 21. Tack on 1, 2, 3 powers of 10. I get 21,000. So since I went up for him and up for him, the estimate of 21,000 is greater than, you have to squeeze a big word, the actual product. That means when I really solve this, this is a bigger number, and that's okay. It's going to be close, but this is an overestimate. So compatible numbers are numbers that are easy to compute mentally, and it's kind of like rounding. So if it's saying estimate 23 times 406, we could also replace 23 with another compatible number of 25, so they don't always have to end in a 0. And we could take 406, and of course we would replace 406 with 400. So 23 times 406 would be the same, or not the same, would be rounded to 25 times 400. Well, what's 25 times 4? I get 100. Tack on my 2 powers of 10 in this factor, I get 10,000. Okay? All right, so that kind of runs you through compatible numbers, means that we round or replace. We replace one number with a number that's easier to work with. Overestimate means that we rounded the factors up or higher to compatible numbers. That means the overall estimated product will be greater. Or an underestimate. That means we rounded the numbers down to a compatible number that's a little bit lower. That means that our estimate will be less than the actual product. Okay, so let's practice in number 4. To estimate 192 times 18. So let's box the question. We could round, so round. We know what round is. That means that we're going to replace 192 to a much easier number to work with. Some of you might say, let's go to 200 because 192 is between 100 and 200, but he is closer to 200. Some of you might want to be challenging yourselves, and you could say, I'm going to try 190. And let's round 18, okay? 18 is between 20 and 30. Excuse me, 10 and 20. Miss Preston's having a little brain fart here. 10 and 20, but he's definitely closer to 20. Let's stick with 220 as our number. Some of you might be challenging yourselves to go down one, but we're going to stick to 200 being the compatible number for 192 and 20 for 18. Now we multiply the rounded numbers. So 192 we said was closer to 200. So we replaced him with a compatible number of 200. 18 we're going to replace with 20. And when we multiply 200 times 20, we get 4,000, because 2 times 2 is 4. Tack on your 1, 2, 3 powers of 10. And let's think, is our estimate that we just did an underestimate or an overestimate? Well, we went from 192 and rounded him to 200, so that went up. We took 18 and rounded him to 20, so he went up. So this answer is definitely an overestimate because we rounded both factors up. Okay, let's do number 7. We're going to just work it out right here. It says about. Oh, that's a key word. When you see about, that means you need to estimate. That means you don't really solve, you get an estimate. About how much would it cost to buy 86 laptop computers? Now this is in the chart over here, so that's why I circled it. Is this an overestimate or an underestimate? We always underline the question. So we have 86 laptops. Let's write the problem here. Times, how much does a laptop cost? $392. That's our real problem, but it's asking us about how much, so we just have to estimate. So let's think, 86, he's between 80 and 90. He's much closer to 90. 392 is between 300 and 400, but he's really close to 400. And we're asked if he's an overestimate or an underestimate. So we have 9 times 4, and we get 36. 1 power of 10, 2, 3 powers of 10. So we get $36,000. That's a lot of money for laptops, but they are expensive. So what's our answer? Is this an overestimate or an underestimate? Well, 86 to 90 means I went up. 392, I rounded up to 400. So this is an overestimate. So that means the real cost is a little bit less than this, but it should be close. Okay, go ahead and glue this into your next page of your math notebook. Okay, and this should be on your right side. And the chart that's attached to this assignment should be printed or copied into your left side. They both go with 3.2. And that's your chart titled Estimating Products. So go ahead and glue this into your right side. Okay, so you should have this on your right side and the chart that's attached to this assignment, the picture of it, titled Estimating Products, either printed on your printer or copied by hand over here. It's got your vocab words on it. Okay, take out volume 1 and turn to page 87. Remember, if you need to stop this video, you certainly may. Okay, and you are welcome. I had some kids come out the help session and they said they kind of used all these pages in the lesson to kind of walk them through some extra ways to think about it. You are welcome to complete any pages that go with the lesson for the day or any problems to give yourself extra practice. We're going to focus on this box where it says, do you know how? And it's asking us if our estimate in 2 through 5, we're going to estimate. That's the first thing we have to do is estimate. We're only going to do number 2. Then tell if your estimate is over estimate or an underestimate. So let's look at number 2. Okay, according to our notes, we're going to think 29 times 688. We are not really solving this today. We are only estimating. So if we think of 29, I'm going to rewrite it over here a little bigger, and you can do the same thing. If we think of the number 29, clearly when we round him, we would round him to a compatible number of what? You have 29 cents. Obviously, you have really close to 30 cents. He is a lot easier to work with in my head. Times 688. Wow. He's between 600 and 700, but this right here tells me he's a lot closer to 700. So this is finding a compatible number for each of your factors. That means we round them to numbers that are easier to work with in our mind. Now our estimate is the answer to this. So 3 times 7, I have to do an arrow because I write really big, is 21. Tack on my 1, 2, 3 powers of 10, and I get 21,000. Is that an overestimate or an underestimate? Well, let's see what I did. From 29, a compatible number to 30 means I rounded up. From 688 to 700 means I rounded up. So I rounded both these factors up according to my notes in my notebook, or right here actually. If my estimate was, and I went up for both of the factors, then I have an overestimate. So since I rounded him up and him up, I now have an overestimate. That means when I really solve for this real answer, this might be a little bit higher, but that's okay. He's going to be close. Okay, you are now going into your SAVVAS tile to do your practice buddy, assign for 3.2, and your quick check for 3.2. After you do that, then you may go into your homework book and you may check your homework assignment in your math course. That goes with lesson 3.2, but you're not doing your homework page until you go into your math tile and do your practice buddy and your quick check. All right, good luck, guys.